If you're watching this, there is a good chance that you're into personal and spiritual development. And I'm sure along the way, you have had some aha moments, some realizations, new levels of self-awareness that have helped you move forward in your life in a way that feels better. Maybe you've learned some techniques or even come up with some ways of doing things on your own that have helped you overcome things in your life. And naturally, of course, you want to share these things with others to help others. Especially your loved ones, especially the people that are close to you that you care about, and maybe even on a bigger, broader scale. But what happens if when you go to help, you are actually met with resistance? There is pushback. Maybe they rebel. Maybe they reject your help. What do you do then? How do you really get your point across if they're not open to receiving it? My name is Susan Ferrara from SusanF.com, and in this episode of Law of Attraction series, I'm going to show you how to truly help someone, even if you feel they may not want to be helped, and how to do it in a way that is beneficial for both of you so you don't feel drained, so they get what they really need, and so both parties walk away feeling empowered. Not long ago, I was on the beach one morning and I was doing my morning meditation, contemplation, visualizations, and intending as I normally do, watching the ocean, feeling very peaceful and at ease, when all of a sudden I hear a buzzing sound and feel something crawling and what felt like it was struggling underneath my skirt. Normally, I would have stripped down and went running and screaming into the ocean. At one time, I jumped on a table topless and almost fell out of a 2-story window because there was a spider on my sweater. This is a true story. I normally do not stay calm in these situations, but for whatever reason, I just reached underneath my skirt and pulled out what was a bee that looked like it was freaking out. And because it was a bee and I didn't want to get stung, I threw it next to me. So I stayed calm in my chair, but there was a bee struggling next to me. So I'm watching this bee and it looks like it's suffering. It looks like it's going through hell and it has sand on its wings. Maybe one of its wings was broken. I don't know. That's what I was assuming. So I decide that I need to help this bee and I'm going to do it with my notebook, my little journal that I had with me. So I try to pop this bee out of the sand with my notebook. Instead, what I'm doing is drowning it in sand. I'm actually covering it with sand. The wind is blowing, and how I thought this was going to work out, it's actually not working out that way, and the bee looks like he's getting worse. So now he's barely moving. He's laying there and like his wing will twitch every second or so. I'm starting to think, this bee is a goner. I feel so bad for this bee. I'm watching him suffer. He is dying a slow, painful death. What else do I have to do? What other choice do I have but to find a way to kill this bee? So now I'm becoming a murderer. Now I want to kill this bee and I'm watching him suffer and I'm suffering because I'm watching him suffer. And I'm looking around for something to kill him. I didn't want to use my notebook and get bee guts on it. And I couldn't really find anything. And as I'm searching for a way and going back and forth with the guilt in my mind about killing this bee, what is really best for this bee, he flies away. He just gets up and flies away. And in that moment, I realized that you can never, ever truly know what someone is really going through. You can never, ever truly experience someone else's perspective. And from my perspective, it looked like that bee was suffering, but I was also suffering because I believed the bee was suffering. So really, by killing the bee, was that really for the bee? Was that really for me to end the bee's suffering? Or was that for me to end my suffering of watching the bee suffer? Maybe it was both. It doesn't even matter. What matters is that I could never really know what was going on for that bee. And I determined that it was my job, my responsibility to put this bee out of its misery. Thank God the bee, went off on its way. So this is what happens often when we're trying to help someone. Of course, we want to help people with things that have helped us in our life. And there's nothing wrong with sharing that. But when we try to force something on someone and they're either not ready for it or maybe it's not right for them, it causes a lot of chaos in our relationships and in our own life. It causes a lot of stress and it doesn't make anyone feel any better. I realized that I did this a lot. And as my friends and family know, they're probably watching this video, shaking their heads because they know that I've tried to help them. I am a coach. I am a teacher by nature. And as I've always been into personal and spiritual development, and as I have learned things naturally, I want to help them. And it's not always what they want. And it's often not always what they need. Just because it helped me doesn't mean it's going to help them. So I've learned that what truly helps someone and what truly supports someone is not just sharing what has helped me, but is helping them find their own answers. So now, how can I empower them to find their own answers? Because there are no answers that are outside of you. We all have our own answers. They are all there. We just need to find them. We need to tune into them and allow them to come to us. And by forcing one way upon someone that I think is right from my perspective, I'm doing them a disservice. I'm doing them a disservice, and I'm not allowing them, because I'm not allowing them to find their own answers. And I'm also not allowing them to find what's true and real for them. And it might not be what I think it is. And even if I'm right, even if what I think they need is what they actually need, it's not going to stick for them until they find it on their own. This is something that I've had to learn in my coaching as well. You know, I had a different idea of what coaching was when I first went into it many years ago. And I thought it was about, me being responsible for teaching people what they need to know, what they need to, giving them the steps that they need to take. And this is all well and good. If someone is looking for those steps, if they're looking to you like, hey, you did this, how did you do it? Absolutely share that. Absolutely. But more often than not, people need to come to their conclusions on their own. So what I do when I'm coaching someone is to empower them, to help them find their own answers, to help them find them and to help them trust them. And this is something that you can do. So when someone's going through something that you want to help them with, or, that's causing them pain or suffering in any way, whether it's a small thing or a big thing, that's stressful. It's stressful on their body. It's stressful energetically and emotionally. And the other thing that we need during these times is not someone to cause more stress in our life, not someone to push ideas on us that we're either not ready for or that aren't right for us. That causes more stress. And that creates a barrier between you. That does not create connection. It creates disconnection. It puts a block in between you in the relationship as well. So the best thing to do is look for a way, after trying to empower them, also look for a way to relax them. How can you help them feel more relaxed? How can you help them feel like everything's going to be okay? Even if they're freaking out, you being that calm person to help them see that everything's going to be okay, even if they can't see that everything's going to be okay. Sometimes it just feels good to know that someone else believes that everything is going to be okay and that you're there for them. That's all you have to do more often than not, is just be there. Let them feel heard, let them feel seen, and just be there for them. Right? And there is one other way that you can help someone, and that kind of ties into both of these things. Make them laugh. How can you lighten the mood? How can you lighten things up? How can you make them laugh? After they've felt seen and heard, how can you lighten the mood? Right? Sometimes it's not always good to try and make them laugh when they feel like they're not being seen or heard, because they need to get that out. They need to have that first. But then how can you lighten it up? Can you make a joke? Can you make a joke about something that's happened to you in your own life? Can you, watch a funny movie with them? Take their mind off of it. Again, it's about cultivating the feeling that they can do this, that they can do this on their own. They can figure it out on their own. They will figure it out, and that everything's going to be okay. That's what will help relax them. This is true support. This is the biggest gift that you could give someone. Right? And I'm sure you've probably dealt with it somewhere in your own life. If you have, I want to hear in the comments. How has this worked for you in your own life? Where have you really needed true support and someone was forcing their opinions and answers on you? Or vice versa, where can you back off a little bit? Share in the comments. I want to hear your experience. It always helps other people. My name is Susan Ferrara from SusanF.com. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Law of Attraction series, and I will see you soon.